So I'm here with.
Anastasia.
Nice to meet you, Anastasia.
Nice to meet you as well.
Where are you from originally?
From across the seas, actually. Originally from Moscow, although I was born between Russia, Kazakhstan, and Russia. I was born on a train, actually.
Wow. Where were you raised?
All over the world, actually. When I first came to this part of the world, I started off, I want to say in Denver, but I believe it was Arkansas. And then moved all across the states, eventually came to Canada when the residential school started.
Do you remember what it was like in the States?
Hardly ever. Completely different from how it is now. That's for sure.
Can you explain a little?
Let's just say most of the time we were horseback. I used to stay out on the ranch. Before residential school started, it was, I want to say, the end of a war. And a lot of the things that I remember is not the same as it is now. You used to use a penny, a pence. It's basically a lot thinner than a penny. You would smash it down with a hammer, a lot like the mallets you guys use nowadays. It would be really, really thin. You would need 10 pence to basically make a penny.
Wow.
And then you would use those. They were usually made from silver, copper. Hardly ever saw any gold.
So how was it when you started going to residential school here?
Let's just say in a sense, it was traumatic, but I feel like the trauma itself is what created all the drama. People have a tendency to be overdramatic, but at the same time, what we went through when we were children is not something I'd want on anybody else. I fight first and foremost for change, because when you think of the future, you want to think of, I want to say, every time I think of the future, I think of forefathers or foremothers. When I first came here, I was already a ward of the state. Back in the day, slave trading was not uncommon, although at the same time, during war, it was extremely common, to the point where normally you were supposed to go with your godparents, although when things came down to it and you were separated, usually you ended up somewhere completely opposite than once you came. But if it weren't for everyone who raised me, things wouldn't have evened out in the end. Wouldn't have learned or had the chance to change. Because when given that chance, we all chose to change. We all still choose to change. I may have found every single MMIWM, but alongside my people may not be just a warrior chieftain turned chief. For now, we ended that war, both the city street wars and a world war at the same time. We found all the indigenous from the concentration camps. We brought the POWs home, and I feel like this city is very significant to me. They call it the city of champions, when in reality all I see is stars. Growing up as a child, all I saw was numbers. I saw numbers everywhere. Now all I see are stars. They used to call it the children of Zion, where you would rise back up and take your throne, when in reality, I feel like the throne itself is more just that it's unjust. When you think of the originals, out here they call them the original OGs. They are very futuristic. They saw the chance to make a change, and they chose that first and foremost. Because even though we were children, at one point we still act like children to this day. As long as we keep our heart and soul within ourselves, it actually brings what we would call heat to the hearth. It brings the fire back into the passion and faith that you choose to follow. And when you choose to strengthen your faith with faith as opposed to fear, that's what brings the original fire. That's what brings your passion back to life. We would call it heart stones, made of every single family's colors. You would need all of them. Eventually it would make a clover, like a 4-leaf clover, except more. It's very rare to find an 8-leaf clover. The original colors, before you had the very extendable spectrum in which exists now, we had only four sides. When you had all four, you were considered evened out, all squared up and squared out. It's a lot like a dance, only better. Because when you choose a hearth to keep it in, it's not just them that keeps you alive, keeps you moving, keeps you wanting, needing, and aiming higher. I would say as far as the stars, if not even higher.
And when did you come to Edmonton?
I would have been very small. I would have been in January '96. That's around the time when the last residential school closed.
Can you describe what it was like in a residential school?
Honestly, it reminds me of, what do they call it? I want to say finishing school, where you learn how to be, I want to say proper. I use quotes because in all honesty, it's more like a prosper. It's like church, but they teach you etiquette. How to take how you once were and become somebody else entirely. They only see things a certain way. They're really set in their ways, but at the same time, they may be quite unfamiliar to quite a few. For me personally, finishing school reminded me a lot of the residential schools, except more harsh. Made us forget who we were as a people, and as a tribe, as a tribal herd, as one heart, one family, one soul. We only see one world, one people, one nation, many hearts, many souls. We chose to forgive them in order to break free of a very existential, very, let's say, detrimental and stressful way of living, in order to break generations of pain. Because it took us a long time to forgive, not to forget, but to forgive and to keep moving forward, to take what we went through, take that original view and make it more of a perspection. Out here we call it perception. We choose to receive that which we've already perceived. From one another, we stand for each other. Instead of backing down, we stand tall, back to back, side by side. Because if we, in all honesty, if we don't have each other's backs, I don't see ranks, I don't see color out here. I stand for every single family worldwide, both from citywide streets and slums to ghettos to ghettos. We are stars in our own making. Just like basically when a new nebula is created and a flash of brilliant light, you think it's gone when in reality it's just the beginning of a fresh new start, a brand new beginning. Just like that first rising sun. When you first see it, it reminds me a lot of the air after it rains. You see everything differently, brand new almost. It's refreshing. It's really eye-opening because when we choose to realize all the real lies that surround us in our daily life, we choose to use our real eyes to open up the rest of our lives. Not with ease necessarily, but more with appraisal. We appease ourselves because we choose to live not just for ourselves, but for our future generations, future smaller versions of ourselves.
And how long have you been homeless?
My entire life. I was off of the streets for maybe 7 years of my life.
How was that?
Very life-changing, because even now there are a lot of things that I face that are a challenge to me, that to everybody else, I don't want to say pity, they feel like justice needs to be had. But the way I see it, it's just this. It's all the small moments, all the breaking points. That's what helps you get every single point you need to make across. It's like bridging an open gap. You get rid of the void and you heal. It takes time to heal, and even in time, we still have that breaking point. It completely shatters us and separates us, heart and soul, but in reality, the peace and tranquility that comes from that quiet, devoid darkness, it's like being at the bottom of a deep sea floor. Because as soon as the dust settles, as soon as everything completely settles, you see an entirely new world. And eventually you'll learn how to retrust yourself, how to resurface yourself, reground yourself. Eventually to the point where you not only float, you fly higher than you ever have before. When you seek, you truly soar.
Do you remember the first time you tried drugs?
I think I was about 13 or 14. I think everybody tries, back in the day when you thought of dope, you thought of weed. Nowadays, it's all these crazy things. I never thought I'd see the day where shrooms and methamphetamine and what is it? I want to say acid. Those weird little paper tabs would become a medicinal product to replace all the pharmaceuticals, to the point where the pharmacies have seen a difference. People with Alzheimer's, people with Crohn's or scoliosis, spinal bifida, end-stage cancer, like so many different things. Suddenly, they can live a life they truly want to live. They can live a regular life. It's very life-changing, and I'm proud and grateful that I got to be a part of that change. I'm a medicinal woman in every shape, way, and form. I believe in the people because I'm all for every single person out here.
And what medicine do you use now?
I have scoliosis and spinal bifida, epilepsy, multiple different things. I use the pharmaceutical methamphetamine. I believe they call it Pint or Side nowadays. But it's made quite a difference. It got to the point where I used to not be able to do anything. After a certain while, I'd basically be in so much pain, and people would see and hear my spine, my bones, everything kind of like crack, re-break, and reshift, and it happens every now and again. It's terrifying, but I never thought I'd see the day where I'd be in the end stages of something I've had my entire life and be able to basically be one with the people, to be what I imagine normal is supposed to be like. Because when I was small, normal was just like a dryer setting or a dishwasher setting. And now I can ride a bike, I can drive, I can go to work, I went to school. Never thought I'd see the day where I love music. I always wanted to learn how to dance since I was a little girl. I took ballet classes, and I actually ended up recently graduating.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was, for me, life-changing. I finally found people that I can love and trust, and I learned how to love the work that I do. When people see a homeless woman, they feel like they're automatically a working woman. And I love that since I chose to become a missionary, I got tired of going to school, going to work, and coming home to an empty apartment or an empty house. One day I just up and decided to leave it, come back out here. And I've seen existential change.
What did you do for work before?
I am a clack. A clacky is what we call it. I'm a journeyman for quite a few different things, but I'm mostly an exec supervisor. I oversee projects. I currently actually recently paid for every single project here in the city of Edmonton. I added a few projects of my own. I'm an architect, and kind of, I guess, a cross between both interior and exterior designer. And then I kind of went from there. And it was actually thanks to one of those scratchy jackpots that I was able to pay for everything for the schooling. And it had a lot to do with the worldwide shoppers.
And what's
Marbles
that?
and Stars. It's the biker families worldwide. There's well over 300,000 different types of biker families all over the world. I got to meet every single one of them. And it's amazing seeing such a big family. And yeah, sure, they fight and they're a burly bunch, and a lot of people, I feel, they don't see us through eyes unclouded by hate. They see what they think we are as opposed to who we really are, because in all honesty, we all have regular jobs. The only difference is we ride bikes. We live not just for ourselves but for our families, because even we too know how to put a pin in business in order to make room for our families.
And how is it being homeless here in the winter?
It is very difficult, but at the same time, it's like we're in one giant safe house. Because usually there are shelters that open up, and they stay open all winter. And it's basically like we're in one really, really big house and we're one big family. When I didn't know about a lot of these shelters, and when I first showed up, it felt like home. And I can't imagine my life without any of them in it now. And it's truly amazing to see how much they've changed, to how much their gifts have really given and gained ground, not with myself but with the community as well, to the point where it's more than just amazing. I'm honestly proud of every single one of these homeless family members out here.
What are some of the craziest things you've seen while being homeless here over the years?
Honestly, next to nothing. I recently went and worked, I fought in the war. I originally applied for Air Force, moved to battalion, was there like maybe a day or two, and then switched to barracks. And then within that after the initial training, I heard that they needed frontline medics very badly. As a child, I learned what we call Thai Way or Muay Thai, Muay Thai, Tajwish, Tajmaj. It's basically one of the best ways of healing. I really got to know what family was like. I'm not one to pick up a gun because I've been around them my entire life. I prefer healing as opposed to hurting. Because when you hurt the healed, that's what hurts all of them the most, to the point where they completely burst at the seams. They shatter. But when you heal the hurt, the once lost begotten who believe they're truly forgotten, they finally learn how to forgive themselves and move forward, onward and upwards, for more than just family, more than just themselves. They see so many different things. It's amazing actually talking with quite a few of them. They've got so many dreams and hopes. Honestly, I really hope I can help make it a reality.
And what are some things you think can be done to help the homeless here in Edmonton?
I feel like it's just that out here they call it bullshitting, when in reality they just want to be heard. They want to be seen. They want to know that somebody cares, that somebody loves them, that they are being heard, that they are valid, that they're people too, and not just a doll on a shelf or a piece of livestock or a piece of the city streets.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
No problem.